But there's something that is much more fundamental here. A personal relationship, a personal commitment to the Rebbe. There is the relationship that the Rebbe has with people, with the world. The Rebbe is the king, the Nasi, the leader, the prophet. The Rebbe is all that. But he's also a Rebbe. And there is a very personal, intimate relationship between a Rebbe and a Chassid. It was always talked about the fact that all this language that we read about and we study and we try to understand and contemplate in Chassidus, in the Maimer that we read tonight, about this submission to God, this extra philosophical commitment, this commitment that is beyond intellect, that's beyond emotion, the commitment that touches the essence, that goes deeper than anything, even deeper than the hidden powers, it goes to the essential powers. Something that goes higher even than the soul, the way it was prior to its coming down into this world. Imagine how deep that relationship goes. And the fundamental of that relationship, the basis of that relationship, is not the basis of intellect, of understanding, of recognizing greatness and wanting to tie yourself to greatness, of thinking about how great the Rebbe is and wanting to identify with him. That's absolutely not what it is. It's not about recognizing how big God is, how mighty he is. Because you know that one of the reasons that the Baal Tshuva reaches higher than the Tzaddik is because the Tzaddik, the righteous person, has a sense of self. The reason that he connects is because he recognizes that he is, he wants, he feels, he desires, he wants to be connected. But there's still a he. Whereas the Baal Tshuva, he's broken, he feels his distance. He doesn't want anything because he's so far away. He just wants to be reaccepted. Please bring me back in. So that all of that which we read in relationship to our relationship with Hashem, with God, and what we read about in the Hayom Yom today, which says clearly, Chof Av, I'm sure many of you, most of you have read it, where it says in the same way as a person must have a specific detailed schedule and a substantive order, a boundary where he puts on tefillin on his right hand, on his hand and on his head, there is a specificity about it, there is a technical order to it. There also must be a technical specific order to loving Hashem and fearing Hashem. And he says specifically to love Hashem means to really have a feeling for God. To have such a feeling for him that when you experience him, like when you love somebody, when somebody's going through a difficult moment, and suddenly a parent who's going through a difficult moment, and his child comes from a distance, and he hasn't seen his child in a few years, the goodness and the warmth that he feels at the moment of embracing the child takes away some of the difficulties and anguish that the parent might have in other areas. Love has that capacity. Simple love, feeling. So it says in Hayom Yom, which is a book that was written and translated into English, which means that it's accessible to everyone, that each person must have the capacity for that relationship with God, to really physically feel him and love him. And also to fear God in the same manner, to really fear God in a similar sense. When you think about it in that sense, we need to set up times for ourselves to express simply our love for the Rebbe. Just to feel warm about the Rebbe. Not to think about what he has done for me, or what he will do for me, or what he's doing for the world, or his selfless commitment to Jewishness and to the universe. His leadership level. No. Just a simple feeling, how do I feel about the Rebbe? Do I love the Rebbe? Do I have that emotional warmth? Do I have that closeness, that feeling? You know how you feel inside when you feel warm when you love somebody? Do I feel that way about the Rebbe? And if we don't feel that way about the Rebbe, then there's a fundamental gap between the Chassid and the Rebbe, and it doesn't work. So you ask yourself, what does that mean? To love the Rebbe. Does that mean I have to stand, close my eyes and say 100 times, I love you, Rebbe, I love you, Rebbe, I need you, Rebbe? What does that mean? So again it says, in Hasidic philosophy, in various expressions, that when you love someone, you express that love by fulfilling the one whom you love, his needs, his wants. When you really love somebody, I know, and I'm sorry to use such a crass example, but I know in various levels, times when I counsel people, and they come to me, and when you're dealing with many people who are Balei Tshuva, who don't have really a strong basis in their source, in their core, but everything is learned, so they have difficulty in their relationships. And they come to me and they said, we just can't get along. And he says, and I really love this person, and the other person says, and I really love this person. And I say to them, if you really love them, you don't have to say I love you. All you have to say is do what the other person wants you to do. Simple. Do what he wants you to do. There's a lot of conversation about how we should relate to what the Rebbe wants us to do. What should be our purpose and our direction and our focus? The truth is that it's very simple to do what he wants us to do, which means to be at attention and be prepared every single moment of the time to fulfill his will. And maybe when we deal with loving someone, of course, and I mentioned that many times, saying Tillim for someone you love is great, but that doesn't express your love. When you love somebody, you do what he wants you to do. You submit your will. You say, my will is your will. My commitment is yours. Whatever you want, that's where I am. And until that happens, we don't have a real relationship with the Rebbe. We may look at him as the most powerful leader in the world. We may look at him as the greatest Rebbe that ever lived. We will look at him as the miracle of Hashem's manifestation in this universe. The untouchable person. That's true. All of that is true. But first of all, you and I don't know that because we are so limited in our knowledge that we can't even recognize that. We just see some reflection of the greatness. We don't have any inkling of the real greatness. So when we have an opportunity to actually be literal Hasidim of the Rebbe that are sitting in the Rebbe's house, and Farbrengen on the yahrzeit, when the Rebbe has yahrzeit for his father, on that day we need to feel something. We need to be emotional about the Rebbe. We can't be intellectual and logical. A friend of mine has said to me before, he said, Sholom, what would happen if when you got up there, and I would yell out to you, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this word, but if I bring in, you're allowed to. He said, what would happen if I yelled out to you, Schwanz? So I said to him, I'd be very thankful to you. I'd be very happy. And he looked at me, he said, really, you'd be happy? So he sort of intimated, he says, instead of me saying it, you say it. So I already said it. So as far as he's concerned, I said it already. And now I can challenge him to say L'chaim. But the reason that I would be happy is because each of us in our own world have our own agendas. I have my agenda. I have a shlichus, I do my thing, and during the process of doing my thing, I'm involved in doing my thing. I want to be successful. I want to give the Rebbe nachas ruach, but I want to do my thing. I want to be successful. I want to send the Rebbe duch, telling the Rebbe all the wonderful things that have happened, all the people that I was able to bring back, all these nice things that I think will give the Rebbe joy, and they do give the Rebbe joy, but I'm involved in it. Here is one night, one time, one place when you can actually be nothing for a night. It's a good experience. I wish he would have said it. I might have not liked it, but I'm sure it would have been a great experience. Okay. Now it doesn't work anymore. You should have said it, you should have had guts before, not now. But seriously speaking, we're here for a very important occasion. We're really Farbrengen tonight. Wait, pardon? That's true. And you have to be able to handle the boomerang too. I mean, you have to handle the whole thing. Because, it takes one to know one, you have to recognize. So, no, seriously, I mean, a guy who's not a shvanz doesn't know what one is. Like a tzaddik doesn't understand about tshuva. So, the fact is, I brought a letter to the Rebbe today from a Jew who, he's a psychiatrist. He never saw the Rebbe. He doesn't know any Jewishness. He's a psychiatrist in a city, in a town far from New York. And he writes the Rebbe the following. Together with that letter was a very sizable check, a significant donation, in the thousands. And this psychiatrist writes, "Dear Rebbe," I'm going to paraphrase it. I asked him permission if I could share his letter. He said yes. So even though it's a private letter that I gave to the Rebbe, but he said to me that I could share it. And he said to the Rebbe that I was able in my psychiatric therapy to help a certain woman who happens not to be a Jew but a Baptist to receive a sizable fortune. Through her psychiatric getting well, so to speak, finding balance, she was able to receive a sizable amount of money. And she came to me one day, and she said, this is how he writes to the Rebbe, and she said that since you were responsible, or mainly responsible for my being able to come to the point where I could receive this funds, I would like to give some money to charity. And even though I'm a Baptist, she says, I would like to give something to a Jewish cause because you're a Jew. And he said, I felt very flattered. And I started thinking to myself, where am I going to give this money? He says, Rebbe, I never met you. I never spoke to you. I've never read your works. I've never seen you in any capacity in terms of your impact personally. But during Hanukkah, I was watching television, and I saw your picture on the Hanukkah Live program. And when I saw you, I knew that this charity had to go to you. And to tell you how much I feel for you, not only am I giving this woman's money, which she gave me to give to the charity of my choice, but I've added a similar sum for my own money. Just to let you know, dear Rebbe, how far your influence reaches. Now this psychiatrist, who's not he's not a card-carrying chassid, he's not sitting here around the table. I'm not doing too well, huh? I gotta think. This psychiatrist, he really loves the Rebbe. You know why? Because it cost him something. He gave up something of himself. As it says in Tanya, the reason tzedakah is so powerful because you actually give a piece of yourself. He gave something of himself for no reason. Not because of world leadership, not because of deep, profound Hasidic philosophies, not because of all the spiritual reasons. He says, Rebbe, I want you to know that you touch me, that I feel for you. I want to thank you. And he has that expression of thanks. Often, very often, when I go to prisons, and I meet people who are locked away for many, many years, and nobody cares about them. And they say to me, Rabbi, thank you very much, you're doing a wonderful thing, but they always tell me, in most instances, they said, tell the Rebbe we love him. I said, why do you love him? So they said, because he loves us. He loves us. So today, I think the Farbrengen has to be about loving the Rebbe. Simply, like it says in the Hayim Yem, love the Rebbe. Forget about all the other fancy stuff. Forget about all the other machinations of the philosophies and this guy says this is what it means, this guy says this is what it means. You're all right, you're all wrong, it doesn't matter. Love the Rebbe and give yourself over to him. And you know how you know that? Rebbe Yoel said that to me one time. I don't know if he's still here. But Rebbe Yoel, when he Farbrengen with us once on Yutas Kislev in Bedford and Dean, We used to talk a lot about loving the Rebbe then. I don't know why. But I think maybe we're more sensitive. We weren't so coarse yet. We didn't become so thick. We used to talk a lot about it. And he said to us then, one night late in Yutes Kislev night, and most of us were already, as they say in the vernacular, bombed, out. We were like on the last leg, so to speak. And he said, you know how you know if you love the Rebbe? When you go to sleep at night and you put yourself under the covers, and the last minute before you fall asleep, you think about how much you love the Rebbe, then you know you love the Rebbe. If you love the Rebbe when you're driving a mitzvah tank, you don't necessarily love the Rebbe. You're a pretty good soldier, you're a good private. I mean, you follow the basic rules. But when you go to sleep at night and you think about the Rebbe, then you love the Rebbe. So I just want to say, L'chaim, that when we all go to sleep at night tonight, we should think about the Rebbe. L'chaim.